Hi there, Doggy Dan here. In this video I want to share with you a couple of my own personal stories about something which I believe a lot of us are very aware of, and that is the energy that we have and how the way we're feeling can affect our dogs. And I want to share with you just a couple of stories because I believe dogs are acutely aware of how we are feeling, and with some dogs it can affect them incredibly. So where I'm coming from with this as a dog behaviorist, you can do all the work in the world in terms of training your dog. However, if you have certain emotions and feelings, like you're terrified of life, if you go out there into the world and you're terrified, your dog will pick up on that. And certain dogs are affected more than other dogs. I mean, that's actually just brought to mind. This wasn't a story I was going to share with you, but I will do it because it sort of sums it up. But before I tell you that story, just to explain where I'm coming from with this, is all dogs are different. I think of them, they're a bit like a mirror. They reflect who we are. However, they're also like a sponge because, excuse me, they are soaking up our energy. And just like a sponge, if the energy in your household is always happy and chilled out and relaxed and calm and quiet, you're probably going to have a pretty chilled out, calm, relaxed dog generally. Over a period of years, it's hard not for the dog to pick up on that calm, chilled out energy. However, if you live in a very, very busy place where everyone's stressed and there's a lot of arguing, tension and noise and frustration and shouting, it's very hard for a dog to chill out and remain relaxed and chilled out. They tend to become frustrated and stressed about things as well. So I have hundreds of stories about this as a behaviorist working with other people. And it's interesting how different dogs respond differently. So some dogs they're like a sponge, like a big sponge. They can soak up a lot of energy before they start to go, I can't handle anymore, and they need an outlet, and they'll snap or they'll bark or they'll react in some way. Other dogs are much smaller sponges, and it doesn't take long before they react. But here's the story I was going to tell you. It relates to a couple that I worked with. They had a dog who was going outside of the house. Inside the house, the dog was fine. Outside the house, incredibly stressed, very twitchy, nervous looking, like there was a serious problem everywhere, problems everywhere, stuff going on, always alert, always on the lookout, and you're tense. Now the interesting thing for me was that this dog was only like that with the lady, not with the guy. So this is the energetic side of things. For me, that's a good example of where the dog only behaves like that with one person. If that's happening, the chances are it's as much of an energetic thing with that person than it is the dog needs training. Because if you give the dog to another person who's relaxed and calm and doesn't have those issues, the dog is relaxed. And that's what the case was here. So on further inquiry, I really couldn't figure out why this dog was reacting so strangely when the dog went out for a walk with the lady. But having done this for a long time, I was able to narrow it down, and I finally got to the point where I asked the lady, can I ask you, what do you actually do for a living? And this is what she told me. I'm a police officer. Now, if you think about it, and I've trained as a police officer, I've been a police officer, I know when you're a police officer, your office is effectively outside of your house in the big wide world. You're on duty 24/7, 365. You're effectively on duty. If something happens, you have to interact. You can't just turn a blind eye to a burglary or something that's happening. So I got it straight away. This lady was leaving her home and she was instantly going into that feeling of, hey, I'm alert, I'm on guard, I'm on duty. And I asked her, how do you feel when you're walking around the streets? Do you feel relaxed? She said no. She was very alert, very twitchy, very nervous. I said, I think that's what it is. And she said, yep, so do I. So she hadn't been forthcoming with that information. She hadn't wanted to maybe she was hoping it was something else. Maybe she just hadn't made that connection until I pointed it out. But without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, all that nervous, twitchy behavior, the dog just picked up on it and said, you're scared, you're nervous, and so I'll keep an eye out. Anyway, I wasn't even going to share that story with you until it jumped into my mind. I was going to share with you my own personal story regarding one of my dogs who Inca got me on this journey of realizing how sensitive dogs are, because she's the little sponge. She's a beautiful dog, but she gets pretty stressed pretty quickly. And so I was working at my desk, and this was many, many years ago. I'd work at my desk typing away, and I'd often be doing audios on a podcast or a recording like this in my office. And what would happen is, a fly would come in, and now the problem with a fly is if it lands, on the white wall, on the white background, or if it flies past the microphone, you get this bzzz noise. So you kind of have to stop everything until you get rid of the fly. And it's very frustrating because you might be in the middle of a roll like this. You've got to stop. So what would happen is I get a little bit stressed, and I'd probably tut and wave my arms around and whoosh the fly out the window. But what I started noticing was little Inca was picking up on that so acutely that when flies used to come into the room, she'd leave. And it even got so acute that I started realizing she was so aware of my energy and when I was becoming stressed that I could even just be typing on a keyboard, and if I started to become stressed, I noticed her just getting up and walking out. Or she'd come up to me and kind of look at me and paw at me as if to say, "Can I help? Can I help? Is there a problem?" And I'd get frustrated with her and say, "Go away, leave me alone." Because she was frustrating me, and I thought, "You frustrate me, you little dog. You're so annoying. And you always do it when I'm, or you make me angry or frustrated." And then I realized, no, she wasn't making me angry. She was picking up on the fact that I was becoming frustrated. In fact, she could pick it up before I even became aware of it myself. And that's when I started to realize how acutely aware our dogs are of our energy. And one last story, because it kind of is the other end of the spectrum. It's with Jack, my big, confident, dominant dog, who he's an amazing boy. If you ever want to see what a dominant dog is, Jack is a dominant dog by nature. He just is the leader of the pack. All the other dogs come up to him and he kind of says, "I'm in charge," in a good way. However, he also knows the rules of the dog very clearly. So he would be quite happy to tell a dog off who got in his face, and he would snap and growl, not biting, but just "Rawr, get out of my face" if dogs were really in his face. Now, I've managed to, it's a very tricky issue to work with. Anyone who has a dominant dog, who knows the rules, who's a little bit intolerant, will know what I'm talking about, especially when working with puppies who don't know the rules yet. So they're right in the dog's face. But I've overcome it now. He's great. However, at the time, he would snap at little puppies or smaller dogs often and just say, "Get out of my face." And sometimes it would be a little bit of not a bite, but he would catch them with a tooth, and it just looked terrible. It would be a tiny little mark, and it'd be very embarrassing for me. Not a good show. Didn't happen very often, but I was very aware of it. Now, there was one time where what I started to notice was if I was frustrated, he would pick up on that energy, and straight away, when I let him out of the car, down at the park, down at the beach, he would react in an overly aggressive way. It was almost like if I had a short fuse and I shouted at Jack and said, "Get in the car, come on, get in there," tap his bum or whatever, and said, "Get in the car, come on, stop messing me around." Just that was enough for him to then go, "Okay, we're feeling like that, are we?" He would almost soak that up into his body, and it was amazing how many times I could see him just having a much shorter fuse because my fuse was shorter with other dogs around him. And there was one time in particular where I was playing soccer with the boys at a soccer pitch. All my dogs were being very well behaved off the pitch. But Jack kind of came wandering on the pitch. And I shouted, "Get off the pitch, go on, get off." And I was a little bit rough with him. Didn't hit him or anything, but just shouted at him, "Get off the pitch, go on, come on." About a minute later, dog came over to him, and Jack was exactly the same way. Told him off, very short fuse, and just caught this dog under the eye. Told him off. The other dog wasn't the best behaved dog in the world, to be quite honest. But I could see that Jack's reaction was identical to how mine had been. He'd come down on this dog like a ton of bricks. I'd come down on Jack like a ton of bricks. He had a short fuse. I had a short fuse. And so I've learned, you just have to chill out, mellow, relax, meditate, whatever it is. It has an impact on your dogs. So I hope that's been of some use. Just in terms of if you're thinking, does the way I feel really have an impact? It feels like it does. Well, I can almost guarantee it does. No doubt about it. Same way that your children know whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood. Very quickly they know. Same way as you know whether your partner's in a good mood or a bad mood, and it affects the way you behave, how you feel. And over time, that has an incredible impact on your life, how you're thinking, how you feel, how you react. The more we can learn to chill, the more we can learn to react less and not react, but almost consider the options available to us and then choose an option rather than just flicking into the usual panic stations or shouting or whatever. Oh, one last thing I should say. If you're interested in this topic, then I'm actually giving away a free chapter from my book, which is called What the Dogs Taught Me About Being a Parent. And this looks at the whole topic of how children and dogs are affected by how we are as parents or dog owners. So if you'd like a copy of that, it's a downloadable audio, so I'm reading the book. You can get a feel for it and you get some more stories and some more learnings hopefully in that. Just click the link which is below this video and enjoy. Take care. Cheers. Bye.